Hello there and welcome back to Bhanzu classes. I hope you are doing great. Now before moving forward, let's quickly recall whatever we have learnt in the chapter fractions till now. So we have learnt about a fraction. That what is a fraction? It's a part of the whole. And how to represent the fraction? Remember? Yes, using the numerator and the denominator. And what does numerator and denominator tells us? The numerator gives the number of parts chosen and the denominator tells us the total number of parts the whole is divided into. For example, 1/8, 1/2, 1/4, 3/5, 2/8 and so on. Now here's a question for you to think about. The question is, who has more donut? Is it Jake or is it Sia? Now let's first find out the fraction of donuts that they have. So what do you think is the fraction of donut with Jake? Seems like 4 such parts of this donut will make up one whole. That means the fraction of this part is 1/4. Okay, that is 1/4. And what is the fraction of donut that Sia has? Yeah, it's clearly 1/2. So who has more? Of course, Sia has more, right? Looks bigger and 1/4 looks quite smaller. So okay, just by looking at the image, you can tell that 1/2 is greater than 1/4. But what if images are not given and you just have to see it from the fractions? Then you won't be able to tell, right? Until and unless you are going to learn this concept called comparison of fractions. So don't worry, I'm going to make it very easy for you, so that by the end of this topic, comparison of fractions will become so easy for you. Okay, now tell me which one has more colored portion. For that, let's find out the fractions first. So what is the fraction of colored portion with Jake? Seems like 3 are colored out of 8. So the fraction is 3/8. And what fraction of the colored portion is with Sia? It's 5/8, right? Okay, so who has more colored portion? Just by observing the images also you can tell that Sia has more than Jake. That is 5/8 is more than 3/8. Okay, let's see another example and then we're going to observe. So how about this one? What is the fraction over here? It is 4/16. Okay, the next one it is 8/16 and the next one it is 12/16. So 4/16, 8/16, 12/16. Tell me, which one is greater? Of course, this is in the ascending order, isn't it? Okay, just by looking at the images also you can tell this. What can you observe in these fractions? We are comparing here the fractions which has same denominator, isn't it? And here also we compared the fraction which has same denominator. So do you know? Such fractions are called like fractions. The fractions which have the same denominator. Whenever we have like fractions, for example, here it's given 1/4, 2/4 and 3/4. So it becomes very easy for us to compare the fractions. For example, here the denominators are the same, right? And out of 4 it is covering 3 portions. This is covering 2 portions and out of 4 this is covering only 1 portion. So of course this is the smallest and 3/4 is the largest. So therefore the rule over here is whenever we have like fractions, that is fractions with the same denominator, always compare the numerator. Larger the numerator, larger is the fraction. So here 5/8 is greater than 3/8. So 3/8 is lesser than 5/8, right? And over here also if you observe, the denominators are the same, right? And we are just comparing the numerators. See how easy it is, isn't it? Now let's look at some of the applications in real life. So tell me, which portion of pizza is more? Is it 6/8 or 7/8? Without the image representation also you can tell this now, right? That 7/8 is greater than 6/8. Okay, how about 5/6 and 3/6? Which one is more? Yes, clearly 5/6 is greater than 3/6. And why? Because these are like fractions. 6/8 and 7/8. These are like fractions. So we just need to compare the numerators. And over here as well, 5/6 and 3/6 are the like fractions. So again, we just need to compare the numerators and greater the numerator, greater is the fraction. Amazing. Now let's move on to the next question. some practice questions. So quickly pause the video and try out this question on your own. 1 or 1/2, which one is more? Of course, all the fractions that we saw till now were less than 1, right? The fractions lying between 0 and 1. So of course, 1 is any time greater than 1/2. And in this, 1/3 or 2/3, which one is more? 1/3 is lesser than 2/3. How about the next one? 1/4 or 3/4, which one is more? 1/4 is lesser than 3/4. And if you recall, what is the name of 1/4? Yes, it is 1/4. And what is the name for 1/2? This is 1/2. Amazing. Don't forget this. Okay, now think about this question. Can we compare the shaded portions here? Yes, what do you think? Here, let's write the fractions first. 2 are shaded out of 6. Okay, here 2 are shaded out of 3. But the wholes are not the same here, right? See, the divisions are made in such a big portion and here the division is made in such a small portion. How can we even compare that? So we cannot compare until unless the same things are given to us. For example, in a pizza, here it seems like I am taking a bigger window and comparing it. Here I am taking a very small window and how can I compare two windows of unequal sizes? You can't, right? So now let's move on to another concept where you have to compare the fractions with equal wholes. For example, here it seems like they are equal wholes, right? So what is the fraction in this case? It's 3/5. And what is the fraction in this case? It's 3/8. Okay, the fractions have different denominators, but still the wholes looks the same. The divisions are made differently. Here, this shape is divided into 5 equal portions, but in this one, the same shape is divided into 8 equal portions. Doesn't matter, the shape is the same. But if you see in this question, the shape was not the same, right? Okay, so now which one is greater? What do you think? Of course, the first one, that is 3/5. So here's the new rule that whenever you have fractions with the same numerators, you just have to check the denominator. Smaller the denominator, greater is the fraction. So my dear, here the fraction was 3/5 and here the fraction is 3/8. And if you compare 3/5 and 3/8, so numerators are the same, right? Now smaller the denominator, greater is the fraction. But you said now 3/5 is greater, right? So the reason over here is this rule that in the fractions with same numerator, you have to compare the denominator. Smaller the denominator, greater is the fraction. So tell me, are these two like fractions? 3/5 and 3/8? If you recall, like fractions are those fractions which have the same denominator. But here the denominators are different. So of course these are not the like fractions. So if they are not like fractions, then what are they? And these are called unlike fractions. The fractions with the different denominators. For example, 1/4, 1/10, 3/5, 2/6, etc. etc. Now let's practice the last question of the day. Identify them as like and unlike fractions. So first thing first, you have to find out the fraction here, then compare if they are like fractions or unlike fractions. So here in the first one, 2 parts are colored out of 5. So therefore the fraction is 2/5. And in the next one, 3 parts are colored out of 5. That means the fraction is 3/5. So look at the denominators and tell me, are these like fractions or unlike fractions? Because the denominators are same. Therefore, these are like fractions. Okay, now moving on to the next one. Let's again find the fractions in these cases. So what is the fraction in the first part? It is 1/5. Because only one part is colored out of 5 equal parts. How about the next one? What is the fraction over here? Correct, it is 3/8. And in the last one, the fraction is 3/4. So tell me, are these fractions like or unlike? Clearly, since the denominators are not the same, therefore these are unlike fractions. Okay, now since we know how to compare the fractions, what are like fractions, what are unlike fractions, let's summarize whatever we have learnt in this class. If we have the fractions with the same denominator, that is the like fractions, then greater the numerator, greater is the fraction. And if we have the fractions with the same numerators, then Then we have to compare the denominators. So smaller the denominator, greater is the fraction. Now, like fractions we know are those which have same denominators. But what are unlike fractions? The fractions with different denominators. Okay, we have learned how to compare the like fractions. But what about the unlike fractions? How to compare those? For example, here the fraction is 2/5 and here the fraction is 3/4. So how to compare this? So in order to compare the unlike fractions, you have to watch the next video. But before that, you have to spark your curiosity with this question. Try out this one. Until I'll see you in the next session. Bye bye. Take care.